Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast. We are back. How's it going, David?
It's going well. We missed a couple of weeks, but I'm glad to be back, and we have a great guest today, so I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And as our titles say, I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX. And then, of course, he's David Finkelstein, founder and CEO at BDEX. And we are very excited to welcome in our guest. And I will go ahead and kick us off by just giving a brief intro. So Ivan is the Chief Business Officer of Infobip. He is in charge of setting company strategy, direction, developing and delivering new business growth, and overseeing functions in charge of exponentially scaling Infobip's growth. And let's go ahead and bring him in. Hi, Ivan. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And could you please tell us how to pronounce your last name?
Ostojic.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, I wasn't going to try.
Perfect. Well, Ivan, we're so glad to have you here today and appreciate you coming and joining us on the show. What time is it where you are?
It's 10:15 p.m.
All right. Well, we appreciate you staying up late for us, but we'd love to have you kick this whole thing off and tell us a little bit about your background, your history, how you got to Infobip, and tell our audience a little bit more about Infobip so they can learn.
Yeah, so I'm, as you said, Chief Business Officer of Infobip. My background is in science and technology, I have to say. So I kind of have a double degree, PhD in life science, and then a master's in technology management from Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. And I had an interesting path. So I always kind of did a double major, if I can say. So I did a lot of work in healthcare, but at the same time, I did a lot of work in technology. So after I graduated from ETH, I had my own startup with few friends, and then everybody found jobs somewhere else. And then I joined McKinsey. So within McKinsey, I was working with an innovation practice, business building practice, so partnering with companies to build new businesses over long term. And then I worked on a lot of kind of AI advanced analytics projects with either tech companies or particularly with life science companies. And during the course of my career, I met the founders of Infobip, and I fell in love in Infobip's story. Infobip is a company that was founded in 2006 with the purpose to democratize future of digital interactions between businesses and people. And what we do is we're kind of one-stop shop for any communication channel you can imagine, and as well as for customer engagement. We have the philosophy of a full stack platform, and we connect world of infrastructure, so telcos, data centers. We have 42 data centers, 40 are in private cloud, to our partnership with Microsoft, and then communication channels, advanced platform capabilities, and magnitude of customer engagement tools like CDP, Customer Journey Builder, Contact Center, Chatbot Builder, Chatbot that includes also Gen AI. And then now we just launched the product that is called Experiences that help businesses build customer journeys within favorite channels of their consumers. And with that said, just a couple of more things about Infobip. I think it's good for audience to know, since we are not the big marketing machine. Infobip was founded in 2006. We were kind of one of the first company to do business-to-person messaging, and we bootstrapped the company to $1 billion revenue with no external investment. And at the time, we kind of raised capital to acquire 2 companies in the United States to expand our presence, open market, and after that, peerless network. And we are building up from there. Today, we are present in 77 countries around the world physically with our offices. We operate in 190 countries, and last year we reached around 2/3 of all mobile devices in the world, around 7 billion. So that's just some data points about Infobip, and we are serving some of the biggest innovators in the world, like Uber or Microsoft and so forth. So we're very proud of that.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. And it's an amazing company for sure. And the growth track is amazing. So, we have sort of an agenda today where we wanted to talk a little bit about a few different topics. And so let's kick off the first one, data and analytics and the intersection of AI. We would love to hear your thoughts there, because obviously AI is on every tip of everybody's minds these days. And as you know, we can't do AI without data. So I think that there's a lot to talk about when you're talking about this intersection, and would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I think we're a bit in a. I've done a lot of work. I was a co-founder of McKinsey's Technology Council with one of my colleagues, and I did try to kind of look a little bit ahead what will happen with technology. So I would say we're a bit in a hype cycle, but I think this one is real. I think we will see a lot of productivity coming out of the latest technologies, especially generative AI that everybody's talking about. I think we didn't see that the last 5 or 10 years with advanced analytics. It didn't turn much into productivity improvement, but I think we're on to something now. Now, in order for this to turn into real value for the business, as you say, we really need to have good data, because as people say, junk in, junk out. If you have, even if you have a good data sample and you're missing something, you can do synthetic data, but without a good data, it's going to be impossible. And especially in our business where we are working with the customer engagement, a primary data of your customers with aggregation of other data system will unlock huge value. Without that, I think nothing will be possible. And then, analytics, I think we'll have various models of analytics, and starting from, ability to segment customers in more sophisticated way, even to the extent to generate digital twins of these customers so we can simulate which tactics and actions will result in best outcome. Then the second thing is recommender algorithms that could then, based on this data, recommend what's the next best action, something to do, or that will automatically build engagement flows. And then the third thing is based on the large amount of past data. We can train sort of Gen AI algorithms to give best answers, to produce best content, to produce personalized content, and so forth and so forth. So I think with a myriad of analytics algorithms, but also methods, something like machine learning ops became popular just in the last few years, where we can, think of advanced analytics more as a kind of a standardized software process, as well as, with generative AI, and so hopefully soon enough, something that we coined the term software 2.0, algorithms writing themselves. I think we'll see a big unleash of use cases. So we have higher supply of data, technology opportunities or technology methods are exploding at the same time. I expect that will result in myriad of use cases, companies, tools, and finally people will need to integrate that into their workflows or their customer engagement strategies in order to extract value. And that's where most businesses are today experimenting.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's funny, we had a conversation probably about a year ago on this podcast. So it was before OpenAI and ChatGPT. And we were talking about the future of, software development and the possibility of being able to use AI to write software for you. And at the time we were like, yeah, someday that'll come to fruition, but that someday is already here, right? I mean, it's amazing how quickly things can move in this industry. And so I think that, I always say it has a lot to do with, the ability today to manage large amounts of data, in a cost-effective manner, both, storing and processing, which really couldn't be done even 10 years ago. And so I think that has a lot to do with it, and it's getting even propagated more and more because of that, and it's only going to grow even further because of that as well.
Yeah, and David, I just want to comment a couple of things. I mean, my biggest conclusion from kind of analyzing technologies, it's not just in single one technology that's enabling this. And I'll give an example. It's at the intersect of multiple technologies coming together today that's accelerating adoption. So it's almost like if you take a football analogy, the whole team is playing, so one person would score the goal. But in principle, if we didn't have cloud emerging so fast, you wouldn't have such a fast adoption of AI. And if you wouldn't have things that your company does, to bring all the data together, to extract the value and to connect, the analytics algorithms would be much more difficult and much more time consuming. And I would say, just 5 years ago, let's say, you would need a big tech consulting firm to work for you for, I don't know, 2-3 years to build the data lake, the algorithms and everything. And today, with the tools we have, even like with fantastic things you're doing, you can do like these kind of things. You can move from idea to like having deployed algorithms within months, not years. So, and not such a big, like, let's say, workforce. So it's really impressive to see that kind of shift. But it's also like we should never forget it's kind of combination of multiple technologies, computing power, cloud, that's enabling us now to see this explosion at the front end.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And it was only just, over the past few years where only the largest companies, right? I mean, Google and Amazon and Facebook, these are the companies that were using some form of AI or ML within their platforms because they had the deep pockets to be able to do it. And today, with that emergence, like you said, and all of these things coming together, the capabilities become more democratized and it becomes available to just about anybody. And I think that when that emergence happens and now it's available to anybody, that's when you see this sort of incredible growth, right? Because now you have, not a limited number of companies and a limited number of minds that can be put together to create these new and amazing things. But now millions of people all around the world have access to this capabilities. So now you're having all of these incredible minds from all over the world coming up with ideas every day on how to use this, and the technologies at their fingertips, so they can actually not just have an idea but actually act on it and have the ability to.
Correct. And I would also add, like, especially with AI, you have kind of positive feedback loop, right? They're trying things, the algorithms are being improved and the knowledge is shared openly, so it's almost self-propagating to an extent.
Absolutely. And speaking of technology at our fingertips, as David was saying too, chatbots, I feel like any AI, in terms of AI and what I'd used as a marketer, chatbots were really one of the first things that I was exposed to. So could you kick us off, Ivan, and talk to us a little bit about chatbots and CX?
Yes, actually, this is the topic I'm extremely excited because we have a product in our stack and we're combining it with AI. Even more, we're sort of personalizing or productizing some of the use cases in different verticals. So I mean, in principle, in the past, chatbot was, and we did quite a bit of research, was really associated with, let's call it, bad customer experience because, we've seen so many bad bots. However, ChatGPT made us reimagine what the bots can do. So when you can have conversation close to human type of conversation, people are like, wow, this is amazing. And so I think, bots or technologies based on bots and few other things are becoming critical for customer experience. In some cases, these are sort of bots that you can converse with. But there is also the saying in our industry, tap, do not type, which means, some of these rule-based bots or flows are also quite helpful for the things that people want to execute fast. And so we've seen deployments of bots or technologies and use cases based on bots across the full value chain of the customer or consumer, including marketing for lead generation. So, for example, we worked with Dior and global influencer Jisoo, who invited people to join her group or her chat group in WhatsApp, so she would educate them about new Dior products. And underlying that use case were bot technologies, but it was amazing engagement. We had like almost 90% of people going through full flow over 5 days, seeing videos, clicking on things. That created many opportunities for selling products. Then you have bots in conversational commerce. So, for example, there are magnitude of cases where we work with retailers to build commerce flows within chat apps like WhatsApp or Google RCS, where people could kind of buy product, or for telcos where they can top up their mobile subscription and so forth. And then the final thing is in customer support, these kind of experiences based on bots that can escalate to live human chat, that can escalate to call. In some of our clients where we implemented this, they led to amazing results. So we've seen 30% of cost reduction and several folds increase in net promoter score, because all of a sudden customers had 24/7 support that could give sensible answers to people. Or if they cannot give an answer, do a failover within the channel where they approached the company to an agent that could either type or call. So this explosion over a recent period is really amazing, but the business results we are seeing are even more impressive than just the technology itself.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, that's an important part of this whole thing is like, I mean, it's not just creating something for the point of creating it. It's, there needs to be a business purpose, and ultimately a lot of times, that business purpose is, it's circled around, a financial aspect of it, trying to save money, trying to improve profits or improve revenue and sales. So, understanding what that business purpose is and building, a case around how do we create this, this bot or this user experience or whatever it is, so that we can, get that end goal is ultimately what's happening. And, that's incredible. I mean, it's something that, you literally just couldn't do just a few years ago. So it's something that I've seen done really well. The company that I've seen do the best, from my experience at least, was Xfinity, which is like, the cable company division of Comcast or whatever. And, they have actually just an amazing app where you can just have a conversation. Their app actually has very little functionality in it. The whole app is really just about chatting, and like there's nowhere to click to go and see your account information. You ask it for your account information. You ask it to see a bill, and you ask to see, something related to your service, or if you have a problem with your service or anything like that. So like 90% of the app is just the chat itself.
Yeah, and I expect that this will get so good with like magnitude of data training LLMs, on this data and so forth, that this will get so good that people will almost feel like, they won't make a big difference whether it's a machine at the front end or a human, in a way, when they're talking. And when they have that seamless experience, then we'll know we are at the prime, because then we can do a lot of automation, right? Like, and it'll be seamless handover between the agent and the bot and vice versa. I think we're not fully there yet, but we're coming closer and closer, because the answers now are really well articulated. With more data and more kind of this reinforcement feedback loop that I mentioned, these algorithms will get better. And then it's also, we've done recently like a kind of a campaign for a organic flower delivery Bloomsy box in US, and it's also, we've seen interesting things that led to huge conversion is when you combine tapping, gamification, because they did some quiz for Mother's Day, so then you could get the bouquet of flowers, and then generative AI. We allowed people to generate a card for their mother if they want through Gen AI. I mean, we saw amazing results, like more than 70% of people completed a full flow that entered the flow, and that's like almost unseen with some numbers. So really, kind of with those, with those kind of additional elements like gamification and so forth, I think we'll be able even to upgrade the experiences that you have just from chatting.
Absolutely. And improving the customer journey, I'm sure, which kind of goes right into the next topic. So how generative AI is transforming the customer journey. Could you kick us off here, Ivan?
Yeah. So I think, we already touched on that, so not to repeat myself, but I believe it's really maybe three major things that I can mention. So first one is learning about the customer and generating optimal engagement flows. And that's kind of more on a macro level. So what's the appropriate sequence and so forth. The second one is actually interestingly in content generation. So whether it's, videos, pictures that are personalized to that customer, or answers to certain questions, like I mentioned before, Bloomsy, like generating card or customer support. We're working with the digital insurance where we are sort of using Gen AI to answer most common questions. I mean, that's the kind of the second one. And then the third one is sort of direct interactions on the front end with customer where bot is handling the customer request. Because in the second one, where I mentioned this digital insurance and Gen AI, the answers are being generated for the agent and they can decide whether they click or not. But the third example, where we are also working with another company, is like really having a Gen AI at the front end, controlling the customer experience to some extent. I mean, there people are more cautious. We used some safeguards in use of this technology, decision-based intelligence and so forth in the pilots that we conducted, because you never know, when the algorithm will hallucinate. So we need to be a little bit cautious for let's say, more advanced applications. Or we had recently a case in healthcare where the recommendations were essentially wrong. We were not involved in this, but there was in American media, there was a case. I mean, we need to put some safeguard on the third level, but definitely first and the second, I think people are already starting to use that at scale. So that's in principle the three areas where I see the biggest progress of using Gen AI in CX.
Yeah, people are expecting that sort of conversation to to be a little more helpful, more useful than it was in the past. And I feel like even now there's some sites that you can go to and you get a chatbot and you realize very quickly that this chatbot's not going to be able to answer your question, and you're like, okay, how do I get to a representative so I can actually get my question answered? But I think that we're not far off from what you're describing, where the AI can, will be able to answer most of the customer's questions.
No, absolutely. We're actually interesting that we're working with a couple of clients where within our flow builder, we have Gen AI and they're handling mainly today kind of FAQ type of questions and some sort of customer support that are based on the data or website or PDF, whatever they load in the algorithm. And I can tell you the answers are pretty sensible. And we also made algorithms that give you references, take you to the pages, and so forth. So actually, we are not very far. Where we are still kind of trying to patch the technology or do something is generating, based on the answer, generating sort of almost more complex flows, clickable flows, and so forth. That is taking a little bit of time. That's also subject of research, but I don't expect we'll be very far from the moment when we will be able even to do that. So it's a pretty big revolution, I have to say.
Absolutely. So anything else either of you want to add on this topic of how generative AI is transforming the customer journey?
I mean, the only other thing I would add is that, it'll be interesting to see how we can then take that to the next level and tie that data, that conversation, into the into the CDP itself, and so that we can actually act on some of those things that are happening in that conversation. Like maybe in the conversation, someone mentions something that is related to another product that the company has, and so that can provoke some information going out to that consumer, an email or whatever it is, or an SMS going to that consumer that's relative to this other product that so you're essentially having the AI and the chat actually handle an upsell situation or something like that as well.
No, that's absolutely a fantastic point, I have to say, because that's what I, maybe to decompose a little bit, that's what I meant with a little bit more complex flows based on the answer. Because indeed, right, like you need to then recognize the intent, and with that intent, you need to generate some sort of a call to action. As you said, exactly. If somebody mentions certain product, you could kind of say, hey, would you like to buy this product, or continue the conversation. So that's pretty revolutionary. I think also going to customer support, what it's also very interesting is like people usually have hours and hours of phone recordings and stuff like that when the customer calls the support center. But I bet we all had the experiences. We're calling support center, and then there was another agent, and you need to repeat everything you said before. Yep. I think now with Gen AI, actually there are algorithms that can summarize phone calls or video calls. So in principle, what you could do is when there is a next customer call of that customer, you could give very quick summary of previous conversations to the agent in a bulleted form, so they can almost read, oh, okay, I know the history within 30 seconds of this customer, and so the conversation will feel more as evolution of various conversation, and it'll feel more personalized. I think that's also very soon going to be possible, and we are experimenting with that.
I can't wait for that. That's one of my biggest frustrations, right? You have a conversation with somebody, and next thing you know, oh, well, yep, I have to pass you on to someone else in support, for whatever the reason. And now you have to go through the whole story again and explain exactly, what the problem is. And it's so frustrating, right? So exactly. Yeah, I can't wait till that capability is available, and I hope every company takes advantage of that, because that's going to relieve a lot of stress from a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, really, our vision is really to, we and others, and it's really to kind of make this conversation like the one you described really feel natural, like talking to a butcher down the road, or a florist. First time you say something, next time you see the person, feels like continuation of the conversation. If we can translate that into digital experience, that will make CX so much better.
Absolutely. I have to ask, Ivan, earlier you were mentioning, how AI is transforming content creation, and you mentioned video. So I guess I'm curious on both of your opinions on using AI video at this point. Like, have you seen some of those videos on TikTok that are made of AI?
Yeah, no, I've seen them. I mean, it's pretty impressive where that's going. Of course, there is positive and negative thing of every technology, and we are absolutely advocating ethical use of technology, and I think the industry has to be conscious that certain things will be misused. So also some guardrails how it's being used. But when it's used good, you can really create hyper personalized videos that stimulate action, and at some point, although I don't know if you want a human touch, but you could generate synthetic videos of an agent in a way, if that feels more natural. I've seen some of the synthetic videos, and actually they're not that bad. And I've seen, as you said, on TikTok or YouTube. But we need to also see, because we shouldn't forget human-to-human interactions. I think all of these technologies, including the video, is really the way I see it is taking off transactional work that people were bored to do, shortening time to get resolution or to go to action, and that all will free up time for more humanly things, more emotional things. That's how I really see it. And now going back to your question of a video, I think it can be extremely useful as kind of enrichment of the communication to our customers to stimulate certain actions and so forth. And I think it can be also useful for automation of some things, but eventually, some things will have to stay human in a way.
I've seen this company, and maybe there's a couple of companies that are doing these sales videos where you can like record yourself, sending like a sales email to somebody, and you send it as a video, and you record it once, but it then changes the way your lips move for different names. So like you can then, send it to 1,000 people and not record 1,000 videos. You record it once, and it somehow changes if you're going to say Ivan, or if you're going to say Jesse, or if you're going to say David, it moves your lips to to that name somehow, and it looks pretty good. It does a pretty good job. So it makes it look like it's a personalized video sent directly to that person. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I've also seen like applications where sort of like now it's evening here and in Europe, and the lights are not great, but it could actually almost kind of change the environment in which you are, like virtual environments, and then also change how your head looks toward camera and eyes and so forth. And I think that's also an interesting application. It's like backgrounds that today exist in many kind of video conferencing apps, but on steroids, where it'll like be able to kind of look pretty natural. So those things are probably also useful. Now, when you're calling a call center and you want to talk to person and there is like a robot on the other side, I don't know if that's the greatest experience. I think what you mentioned with like automating and personalizing some sales messages or some of kind of consumer engagement videos, that's actually great. But I think at some point we'll need to really hand over to human, and so that the analytics becomes augmenting what people do and not like really artificial.
Definitely. All right. Well, with that being said, let's move on to our last topic, which we ask all of our guests on deconstructing data. What are some of your favorite tools that you and your team use? Like software tools in your tech stack?
So that's for us, it's a little bit of a, call it, difficult question because, we drink our own pills. So in our marketing, we are actually using our own stack. But I have to say that I'll pick a couple of tools. So one is actually what we integrated in our stack and we're gladly using. We're working with good data to actually have a full journey analytics coming out of our products and kind of understanding if we launch certain messaging campaigns, how are they converting and where are they going and so forth. So that's one. I don't know if I can call it tool. I mean, the company kind of made the tools together with us. And the other one is actually range of, honestly, Gen AI tools. We have been working with this much before the hype, but there are tools for SEM optimization. There are tools for content generation, although we are very cautious that humans are always changing, but it accelerates them. And then there are tools where you can kind of draw with your hand certain designs, and then the Gen AI will kind of transfer it quickly into full design. I think our marketing teams, for example, are using some of these tools already at scale. And maybe I stopped with those three because I could start counting. We are actually testing systematically various tools and deploying some that we see value in. But like as I said, the most deployed ones are like help with content generation, help with like SEM optimization, and then more the tools that are like, you can hand draw and then they will make either elements of the slides or other design elements based on your hand drawing. These are also Gen AI tools.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I tagged the Infobip tools in the comments. So if anyone watching is interested, who's watching the video at least, they can see it there. But, now I guess we have time for our post-topic questions. So if you could go back when you first came into this industry, what is the number one thing you would, advise yourself if you knew then what you know now?
To be more aggressive on disruptive innovation. So I give why I said this. I knew about Gen AI much before the hype, and these were like months and months before the hype. And we already started playing with it for there were tools like for marketing and other tools, so we were kind of experimenting. And this was almost a year before the hype. And then I met somebody who was really deep in this topic, and this person was telling me how they kind of use Gen AI to digest FAQ and to expose that, in order to answer some commonly asked questions by a machine. And I got very intrigued with it. And we wanted to get in touch with OpenAI, like how can we maybe kind of see how can we do that and deploy this technology and try. And then, all the business as usual kicked in. And so we were a little bit slow. I think in the early stages of technologies, everything is about trying and learning. So in that sense, I felt that, we were a bit more pushy and aggressive to try earlier. We would be having big insights far ahead of the hype. We are not behind. We're actually leading. We'll launch series of products soon. We were playing with it, but we could have been more aggressive at scale, even just over down internal processes, transforming them and automating them. So that's one advice I would give to myself.
Very good. Jesse, you're on mute.
Were you going to say something on that, David?
No, I would just commented that that's very good. It's it's always interesting looking back and trying to give yourself, think of what advice you would give yourself. And, for sure, people usually are either tentative about moving forward with something that seems experimental, or on the other hand, just get busy with the day to day. And there's so many other things to do. So it certainly makes sense, and it's understandable, the situation you described, Ivan, and we've all been there for sure.
Yeah, you need to keep some capacity for people to play with emerging technologies. I think every organization should do that. But you need to know, when is this for scale and when is this for learning?
That's
Definitely.
a great point.
Yes, and failing is okay, right? Because that's when we learn the most. But going off that, are there any lessons you've learned along the way, or from the past, any past jobs, or this current position that you think everyone should know?
Oh, many. I think I'll maybe single out a few. So one is when I started my career, I was over-indexing sort of technical expertise. I thought you can't do any job if you're like not very deep technically. I learned, over the course of my career that, there are many transferable skills that you can deploy, and that also being able to connect things that you learned, let's say in one industry and one technology, have a huge value because you can start seeing patterns and translating things between one and the other. And then related to that, it's really openness for feedback and learning that's extremely critical, that I learned. Because I think especially in the fast moving industry like tech, where things are changing on the daily basis, if you're not really open to, learn and have that mental agility to kind of change your course and so forth, you can get very quickly left behind. And then you close yourself, and your little island on which you are standing is getting smaller and smaller. And that kind of learning, openness to feedback, it's another big thing that I learned over my career. Being humble, just knowing you can be disrupted and keep learning and keep trying. That's actually real virtue in business and career.
Definitely. I see David nodding. I think he would agree.
100%.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. And in closing, Ivan, how can our audience find you?
Yeah, so I actually don't use a lot of social media, but I'm avid user of LinkedIn. So if people just search my first name, Ivan, my last name, Ostojic, on LinkedIn and Infobip attached to that, I think it's easy to find my profile, and then they can hit me up and we can continue this conversation.
Oh, perfect. And, before we all go, we want to tell the audience just a little bit about Omni IQ. We mention it every week. There's a QR code. You can also go to BDEX.com to check it out. But you simply upload a CSV list and you can get analytics on your audience, complimentary, no credit card for at least 3 segments, right, David? Birth year, gender, household income. I did a quick demo earlier. David, thanks for showing up on my page. So you can check that out and, learn a little bit about your audience. And one thing I didn't mention, I guess, is AI is available. You can expand your audience within Omni IQ. So just think of, using AI to understand your audience and build your audience. Anything you want to add on that, David?
No, that's it. That's perfect. It's the ability to take your first party data and analyze it and build an audience of consumers that look just like them. And the ability to do that pretty much anywhere across the ed tech ecosystem. Once we build that audience, we can push it wherever you need to go. So check it out and tell us what you think. We're always adding new features almost every 2 weeks. So.
Yes, it's awesome. And so we would love to hear from our listeners too. So do you have someone that you think we should interview as a guest on Deconstructing Data? Or are there specific topics you would like to hear us cover? Share your qualitative data with us so we can make this a great show for you. You can reach us at info@bdex.com. And thank you so much for joining Deconstructing Data again. And thank you, Ivan, for joining us.
It was a pleasure to be your guest. Thank you for hosting me.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Ivan.
Thank you.